Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Outlander Season 4 on Starz. And this was a weird season for me. I overall had enjoyment of what was kind of going on. This is the first one that I didn't really read the books for. However, my mom had like a companion kind of synopsis kind of thing book that worked out pretty well, so I had an idea of what was kind of going on. Condensed version, fluff pretty much cut, and you're like, okay, cool, let's kind of see what's going on here. So, we're almost close to like the 1770s. And we see that our group of Claire and Jamie are pretty much in North Carolina at this point. One of their group is being hanged because they accidentally killed a man, and this introduces us to the character of Stephen Bonnet. Their friend gets hung and dies. Bonnet is able to escape, and also escape with the help of Jamie and Claire. However, he then comes back and steals their shit, while we hear Ray Charles, like America the Beautiful, going on. I understand what they were attempting to do, but it's just like, okay. Because the thing is, they've got these gems and everything, and Bonnet steals them, also steals Claire's wedding ring. However, it is the wedding ring that Jamie gave her, not the one that Frank gave her. This is an important kind of change up from what was going on in the book. And this also changes up what's going on because later on, as they're pretty much making their homestead, Jamie decides to take one of the candlesticks that his Aunt Yocasta pretty much gives to him from his mother and make the kind of more accurate wedding ring that Claire's had in the books. So it's like, okay. The thing is, they were making their way to his Aunt Yocasta's river run plantation, which is kind of fucking me up because there was a river run in Game of Thrones, and it's like, ah! And we pretty much find her to be on the same kind of level as Cullum and Dougal. She pretty much wants Jamie to take over and be heir to River Run. Claire's like, I don't want to do that because she's got slaves, and she doesn't want to own any slaves. We had this kind of issue in Season 3 and Book 3 as well with the slave Temeraire, as everything kind of went hunky-crappy-dory, and then they were able to free him. So I was like, alright, cool. But of course, Yocasta's widowed. She's been married like 3 times. The thing is, she can't really, because of all the shit at the time, can't really effectively manage. She has to have someone else to do it for her. Has to be a man. Even though she's been running it well, and Ulysses is running it well for her as well. Her sight's been gone as well. That links up with the book. Young Ian gets this dog, wolf dog Rolo, and him just pretty much being like, yeah, I'm an adventure. We'll see kind of how long that lasts throughout this season. So Yocasta kind of wants that, but of course there's an incident that's involved with a slave that struck and took off an overseer's ear, and we don't even, like, they have, it's against the law, and they have to kill the slave, and then a lynch mob, but the thing is, Claire and Jamie are like, we gotta find a better way. The thing is, when they get there, they're already pretty much lynching the dude, but we get Claire going through this, trying to save his life, pretty much does a successful operation on him, but of course there's a lynching mob pretty much coming, so she decides to euthanize him. Yeah, and we kind of get that whole kind of thing between her and Jamie, as they then take him out and fucking still string him up even though he's dead. Fuckers. So Jamie's like, I'm kind of done. And of course gets the candlesticks. They also get introduced to Governor Tryon, and Tryon's like, listen, I understand you're Catholic, but I need someone with your expertise, pretty much because he's a former soldier, and would like him to be able to, he's going to grant him like 10,000 acres of land, but yet he would be on call to do militia kind of shit. So they pretty much find this CGI kind of place and see Fraser's Ridge and want to kind of set that kind of up. We also see that Fergus and Marsley are pretty much setting themselves up in Wilmington. We also get this whole kind of thing with this Ottertooth guy, which links up with the Native Americans later on, mainly with the Mohawk, where Claire pretty much gets separated from Jamie, similarly to the book, and finds a skull with this opal kind of stone. However, the thing is that it's kind of different because in the book, when it was talking about the summary of it, it was more of like a kind of a cave. This, it was kind of like a hollow in a tree. But we see that this otter tooth was a time traveler and everything. We also learn that as we get the information dump towards the end as well. But she keeps the stone. They decide to accept Governor Tryon's offer, and we see them kind of setting up at Fraser's Ridge. This is linked up because strawberries are a part of the sigil for House Fraser, part of their sign, and it has a feeling for Jamie, and he decides to go through with it. So we see them kind of pretty much dealing with that, dealing with the Cherokee warriors that are pretty much their neighbors, and trying to understand how to interact with the group. The thing is, we kind of get a change up. At River Run, Claire was supposed to perform a hernia operation on John Quincy Myers, him being a tracker, understanding of what's going on with the Cherokee and getting them kind of linked up with that. However, that does not happen here. That is more taken with the precedence of the whole slave thing going on. We do get that hernia operation later, but I do actually think that that hernia operation works better because it's used as a distraction to have Jamie go off and warn these regulator people. Let's see here. We also get that Claire gets linked up with these Germans, helping to deliver a baby, but we see that the patriarch of the family sees that there's Cherokee trying to drink the water and says that it's my water, shit, motherfucker, thinks that it's cursing him, but then Measles gets introduced, mainly from the toy that the patriarch brought back, and kills most of them, and he's gone kind of nutty, and scalped and killed one of the Cherokee friends that Claire had, and she's like, get the fuck out, man, get the fuck out. And then, of course, him and his wife then get further killed in retaliation by the Cherokee, burning the house, which, incidentally enough, is probably worked in the Cherokee's favor because that then burns out the Measles, because we also see the toys burnt as well. It's like, oh, God, it's a shitty situation all around. It's like, stop. It's kind of cool to see Claire and them kind of work out. We also see that instead of a bear that Jamie fights, he fights a dude that has gone bear kind of crazy, and that the Cherokee couldn't kill him because they were pretty much shunning him, and you can't kill what's already dead kind of shit. Though granted, I think you need to get into a kind of balancing act that, yeah, you can pretty much shun and say, like, get the fuck away, but if they're still coming and they're running around like a bear, it's like, what the fuck? And that's how Jamie gets pretty much this bear kind of killer persona and gets more of a kind of friendly relationship with the Cherokee. Now, in the book, he actually did fight and kill a bear. But I understand why the show is like, let's just make somebody think that they're a bear, because you then have to train a bear, stunt choreography, and you're like, maybe Sam Heughan's like, you know what? I don't even want to fake fight a bear. Alright, can I just not do that? And I don't blame you. Siegfried and Roy, tigers and shit, when you've got big ass kind of animals like that, I get that kind of change. That's where I'm like, okay, cool on you. So, let's now link up with what's going on with Roger and Brianna. This is why I didn't go further on for it. I do kind of like the exploration of what's going on with Jamie and Claire, them kind of hashing out what's kind of going on in pretty much pre-revolution America. Brianna and Roger have the most CW romance ever, and that is not a good thing to call it. They both start acting dumb as fucking shit. Roger takes the fucking idiot crown most of the time. And then Brianna later on, when they go back in time, oh my God. I'm like, what the shit? Fuck ass. What? Oh, so, we don't get their inciting incident completely, but we see them kind of working out. He kind of comes to visit her again. We'd seen them pretty much visiting on Christmas and everything before Claire was pretty much getting herself figured out. Brianna was having troubles in school because of everything going on with Frank, learning about Jamie, all that kind of stuff, wanting to take off from Harvard. Or evidently going to MIT as an architect kind of thing. It's like, alright. But Roger comes. They're being all cutesy and everything. They go to this kind of festival in South Carolina. It's a Scottish festival because he was invited to sing and all that kind of stuff. And they're having their cute stuff, having their pictures drawn and all that, before they're pretty much getting ready to go to Pound Town. And then Roger proposes. They have known each other for pretty much 2 years at this point. He is a professor, she is a student, and it's just like, okay. And he just acts like a complete dick about it. It's like, oh, I want you all or not at all, and just being like, oh god, he just fucking went stupid ass ham on it. And she's like, no. And they then have their complete and utter friction and everything, and it translates to like the gathering stuff that's kind of going on, and they kind of part ways before we get the inciting incident that Roger learns that Jamie and Claire are supposed to die in this house fire during 1770 something. And the thing is, he was able to say that like Claire got there, but before, and she really kind of likes that. And then Roger finds this information and decides to keep it from her. However, he then finds out as he's trying to kind of talk to her after the whole kind of blow up that she's actually in Scotland and has decided to go through the stones because she found out this stuff as well, because Frank had found it out as well, and she kind of remembered it and kind of went through the stones. And it's like, oh god. Now, in the book, she didn't tell Roger because she wanted an anchor point, because that's what everybody kind of thinks of at this point to kind of doing the stone traveling, i.e. you need to think of something that kind of works out and kind of pulls you to a certain kind of time period. That's pretty much the prevailing theories. However, Claire wasn't really probably thinking of anybody before she kind of got like thunderjacked. Gayless was probably thinking about Bonnie Prince Charles and that kind of time period, so of course that makes sense that she would be sucked into about the time of the Rising. So Roger finds this out, gets the letter from her. It was supposed to be sent a year afterward, but figures it out, sets himself up. He's talked about this with Fiona as well, and Fiona has more of a interesting kind of part to play in the show. Granted, I don't know what her part is in the book as much because it doesn't really show that much in the summary. But Roger decides to go through the stones. We see that it goes better in the show than in the books. In the books, he almost dies with a feedback loop and starts losing kind of stones as well in the process, but eventually he's able to make it through. In the show, we see that Brianna is pretty much trying to make her way to a port and to get to North Carolina. However, she has the shittiest luck and pretty much gets fucked up with her foot and gets taken in by Leary. And then when Leary finds us, like, yeah, I'm gonna burn you as a witch. I'm like, oh, you fucking bitch. And we see that she's still trying to get her alimony and is being a complete and utter asshole to Ian when Ian's like, let me pay you off. And she's like, no, I don't be for my husband. It's like, Jesus Christ. Now, I do at least have to give props to the actress for selling the batshit insanity that this asshole character does. She doesn't understand that Jamie will never love her, has never loved her, and that's the fucking truth. But nope. I mean, you fucking shot his ass, trying to, incidentally enough, shoot his first wife, which is just like, whatever. But Brianna is able to get to Lollybrock, and that's kind of cool. Though, it's different because she only talks with Ian, and then gets her mother's clothes and pretty much gets set off to port, gets her servant Lizzie to come with her before seeing kind of Frank in the distance waving her off, which is interesting. But she evidently was supposed to link up with Jenny, but doesn't. Probably kind of scheduling conflicts depending upon timing-wise of what was going on with the actress. So it's like, okay. And of course, Roger is trying to find her as well. And who does he hook up with? Bonnet. It's like, oh shit, this motherfucker. And the actor they got kind of works. It's kind of strange because he played Aragon in the movie based on the book with the dragon and all that. It's just like, this is the first time I've seen him in anything in a while, but I don't fault the actor. He is just not on the same level as Blackjack. We've got this whole kind of situation where the antagonistical force doesn't live up to what we had previously, i.e. the whole Rising and Blackjack Randall as the main kind of core for Jamie and Claire. We see that Bonnet is pretty much being set up as a kind of bridge antagonist, i.e. being that towards Claire and Jamie, as well as then Roger and Brianna. Because we see that smallpox kind of breaks out on Stephen Bonnet's boat, and he starts tossing people with even the hint of a rash. The thing is, Roger saves his like great grandfather from being thrown overboard and killed, and then Bonnet's like, "Oh, you fucking asshole! I'm gonna flip this coin like Harvey Dent and see if you live or die." It's like, nope, you live to stay, bitch. And the thing is, they get to Wilmington, but the thing is, he has to stay hooked up with Bonnet, but he's able to find Brianna, and they decide to hand fast and make love, and then Roger becomes a complete and utter dickwad. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. When she learned that he knew about the deaths and didn't tell her, it just completely fucking cracks that shit. He decides to storm off. And she's pissed off as well. We also get an episode that's nicely self-contained where we see Lord John visiting with Willie. He gets the measles, and we see Jamie have a nice kind of whole kind of thing going on with Willie, but Willie accidentally he gets into the Cherokee territory and kills a fish, and we see that whole kind of thing where blood for blood kind of answering, and they were going to go for Jamie because he claimed Willie as his own, but Willie's like, no, I'm going to take this, and they just nick him because of this courage and everything. And it's kind of cool to see how much of Jamie is kind of in him, but as well as Lord John. And seeing Lord John and Claire have their whole kind of repertoire as they're like figuring out each other's feelings, understanding what's going on. We learn that Isabel has passed away, and John had come here to see if he could still feel, and he does. And seeing that Claire and John do have a kind of at least friendly relationship. They might not be friends because of everything that's kind of gone on, and Claire understanding John's depth of feelings for Jamie, but it was kind of cool. The actors really did a good job on that one. That's a fucking good one. But the thing is, we have 13 episodes. You need more episodes to let this shit breathe. Maybe even do some kind of filler stuff where you're kind of building up other things. Yeah. So, we also see that Jamie is reunited with Murtaugh, that he is the blacksmith in Wilmington and part of the regulators as well. So, this is where we start getting other kind of knock-on effect kind of changes. Him loving that Claire's back, and of course stirring up trouble because of the taxation and what Governor Tryon is doing. And it's like, oh shit, they're gonna set Jamie on against Murtaugh, aren't they? And of course that happens at the end of the season. Let's see. We then see the whole kind of hernia thing where Governor Tryon has invited Jamie to this kind of play thing, and he's going to take on the regulators, but Jamie wants to warn Murtaugh, and Claire, he makes a situation where this dude who has a hernia is like fucked up. Claire's able to like operate on him and fix him, which was kind of funny because they get this other physician like, what the fuck's going on here? She's like, I'm fucking finished. And Jamie hooks a ride with George Washington, and he's able to then warn Murtaugh. However, this more implicates George Washington, setting it more on the path of him becoming the leader of the revolution, one of the leaders of the revolution, and everything like that. It's like, ooh, we'll have to see how that kind of works out. Alright, sorry, I'm looking through and I've got like this, the other thing that's going on, so we link back up. Brianna is pissed off and goes back into the tavern that they're staying at, her and Lizzie, and sees Stephen Bonnet there with her mother's ring. And then we see that this goes nutty because she offers to pay for it, but Bonnet decides to rape her instead and still give it. Like, oh yeah, don't you want this? It's like, shit. And of course we see Brianna dealing with the after effects, her then also linking up with her father, Jamie. And that was a really nice and affecting moving scene. Seeing them link up the first time together and just hug it out and everything. And then they get set up. They get introduced to Murtaugh. They're at Fraser's Ridge. They've built up more of a cabin and everything. An actual kind of house. Kosher house on the prairie kind of shit. It's just... Sorry, I always think of that with the Adam Sandler song, and that's why I do it. Little House on the Prairie kind of stuff, which could be interesting. But we see that Brianna has not brought up what's kind of been going on. Young Ian, when she's introduced to young Ian and he's talking about them being accosted by Stephen Bonnet, everything's still kind of like in a weird kind of play, and we're getting towards the end of the season, like, shit. And of course, Roger is forced to rejoin Bonnet's crew because they're like, we're going to more ports and shit. Once we're done in Philadelphia, then you can leave, asshole. And Brianna thinks that he's left to go back to Scotland and go through the stones. But then we see him kind of come back and everything just gets shit on from here. Because young Ian's able to talk about the whole thing and she's like, oh shit. And we see that Claire and Brianna finally discuss what's going on because of the ring. She's able to see it. It's like, where did you get this? And we see that Brianna's pregnant, and we talk about the whole kind of rape, and we see the effect of Claire. Now, one of the nice throughput lines of this is her talking with Marcelly about Fergus and having their child Germain, which is kind of fucked up because the Comte Germain in Paris pretty much trying to fuck over and kill Claire. But, I mean, there's probably just only so many French names you're kind of going for. But Marcelly's like, I'd do anything to protect my child. And Claire's like, sometimes you have to let go and understand that you can't protect him from everything. And then seeing Claire have to deal with this and just being like, my baby. What happened to my baby? And it's just like, shit. But the thing is, we then get Lizzie thinking that it was Roger that raped her instead of Stephen Bonnet, which then puts us onto this whole fucked up side quest thing where Lizzie points out Roger because Roger's come back after everything. It's like, hey, yeah! And then Jamie just beats Roger almost to death, and young Ian then decides to sell him to Mohawk. This kind of sucks because that's in upstate New York, and then once everything's kind of done, they're like, oh shit, and they have this giant kind of argument. Brianna's like, goes stupid mode. She's like, no, to Jamie, you don't get to be more angry than me at this. It's like, he would be angry at himself that he was told wrong information and sold this dude to slavery for this. Now, granted, it wasn't really him. Young Ian decided to go, I'm going to sell this dude to the Mohawk. It's like, there's no better ways you could have done this. Why are you stupid, young Ian? And it's just... because Jamie said some shitty stuff about, like, you gave to him in lust. It's like, no. On this night, she hand-fast and made love to Roger. They got pissed off at each other, split up. She then got raped by Stephen Bonnet, and bringing that whole thing up. And, of course, that gets Jamie even angry at himself because he helped Stephen Bonnet from the gallows, and he had gotten robbed, and now his daughter got raped, and so they decided to go on their quest. Claire, Jamie, Ian. Brianna is then put into the care of Yocasta at River Run, where she then tries to pretty much get her married off to Pippin from Lord of the Rings, Lord John Grey, or this Lieutenant Wolf naval contract fucker. It's like, oh god. But of course, Brianna, while there, sees Lord John having sexual relations with one of the other suitors, and but first attempts to blackmail him because she doesn't know the relationship between Lord John and Jamie. But then they get their own kind of relationship together. And John's like, come on, man. You're Jamie's daughter. I love the dude. Now, granted, he doesn't go completely like that, but it's like, no, come on. And they decide to pretty much put forth a fake engagement to knock off the rest of the suitors and hold everything else off. It's just like, oh god, fuck that shit. And Murtaugh also gets pretty much, because they've been on the lookout for Stephen Bonnet, and Murtaugh and Fergus are able to kind of capture him, but the militia kind of capture Murtaugh and Bonnet, and they of course need to get Murtaugh out. So Fergus and Marsali and the rest of the regulars pretty much come up with this plan to kind of break him out. This lines up with Lord John and Brianna figuring out that Bonnet is captured, and Brianna wants to pretty much get closure, saying that nobody will remember him and that there'll be only one thing left of him, the kid. We don't know. At this point, we don't know who the child's father is. It could be Rogers. It could be Bonnet's. And the thing is, he actually does give her a stone for the child's maintenance, and everything kind of breaks loose, but we see that Bonnet is pretty much able to escape, even though at the end of the season, it's pretty much left ambiguous if he's alive or not. So we also see that Roger is in the Cherokee's care. He almost is able to escape, but decides to stay in the past because he's found another stone in North Carolina. But he also then gets hooked up with this father dude who had relations, but decided not to baptize the child because he's fallen from grace. And the Mohawk don't really understand this, but granted, it's pretty much that kind of impasse. He is fallen from grace and can't baptize him, but they're like, you gotta baptize him. And pretty much chopping his one ear off, putting his feet to the fire, and Roger pretty much is almost escaped, but he's like, fuck this shit, because he hears the dude screaming in agony and decides to throw pretty much a barrel of like some kind of alcohol that like blows up and kills him. And then the woman that was in love with him gives the baby away and then puts herself on the pyre. And of course they're like, yeah, we got this dude. Now this is different than what I saw in the synopsis, and that Claire and Jamie and young Ian were already here and were like trying to advocate for his release pretty much with whiskey and all that. But then they come after this part and they're trying to get his release. But of course, Claire's got the stone. And of course, that brings up the whole Ottertooth info dump where he's pretty much trying to tell them about the future and everything. And they're like, fuck you. You're annoying the shit out of us. They chop his head off and leave this opal, evidently in North Carolina. And they're like, why the fuck is this thing here? Some people in the tribe want it, but they're like, alright, we'll help you get the fucking dude. And then they try and take him, but it leads into a giant altercation. And they're like, listen, just the stone thing's fucking done. Just fucking leave. It's like, can we have our friend? No, we gotta trade on that shit. And young Ian decides to stay instead. Because when Roger came in, he had to go through this gauntlet, but he didn't pass it, so that's why he was still captive. Young Ian's like, nah, I'll stay here. And of course this pisses off Jamie and whatnot, but he understands Ian's whole kind of thing. It was interesting to see then Jamie pretty much get beat up by Roger, but then it's like, what the fuck's kind of going on and everything. And before they get everything kind of worked out, and it's like, listen, I had to let my cousin go because of you. And we see that young Ian is able to finish the gauntlet and is now having his own kind of whole thing, because Jamie's going to be like, what do I tell my sister? And we see it's like, okay, young Ian makes it, so he's into the tribe. We'll have to see how that works out. So Roger gets the info dump of Brianna being raped in the pregnancy, and that he's got to decide what's kind of going on. So we get this whole kind of thing that Jamie and Claire pop back up at River Run. Brianna has given birth to a baby boy at this point. And it's like, what's kind of going on? And then Roger comes in. They say that they love each other and all that, and they'll see what goes on with the kid. It's almost kind of like a Frank kind of situation. Where it's like, I'll treat it as mine, but we'll see how that kind of goes on. Before the Redcoats pop up, they have to hide Murtaugh because he's been hiding out and banging Yocasta. It's like, alright, let's see how that kind of goes. Before Jamie has to call the militia to go on take on the regulators, specifically hunting after Murtaugh. So that is where the season ends. So we'll have to see how that kind of works out. I was mainly just cheesed off at the melodrama that would pop up with the execution of Brianna and Roger's storyline. And it's mainly down to the execution of it, and mainly how it's directed and how it's kind of acted content-wise. It's like, Oh my god, you people are just being a bunch of fucking dipshits here. Which I don't mind. I don't mind the characters being dipshits. What I mind is when it sounds stupid as shit. And I'm like, come on. Are you fucking kidding me here? Like, honestly, I know that we're supposed to follow these characters, but I really think that, like, Roger and Brianna should have broken up and stayed broken up after the failed proposal. But after that, we're just, like, committed to, like, oh god, just fucking... Jamie and Claire's stuff was kind of more interesting, and Bonnet's just an antagonistical force. I don't really consider him that much of a character. He just does things because we need somebody to fight. Governor Tryon or whatnot, or focusing more on kind of the Crown doing stupid shit, I think would have been a better kind of option, but I understand why that wouldn't have been the one that would have mainly been chosen by the author, because we've already done that with Randall and the Rising and everything like that. But I think there could have been some other kind of force, because now we've got Bonnet in the wind, and he's just not that interesting. I think that's down to the content that he's got and the actor as well, because Tobias as Blackjack Randall fucking takes the character to a new level. Blackjack Randall and Frank would not have worked as well if they had not cast Tobias. But Stephen Bonnet just is like, alright, it's mainly like this is going to be the annoying kind of dude that we'll have to see, okay, who are we going to like get to pretty much take this fucker out. It's kind of like going from Green Goblin to kind of... Now I'm trying to go deeper and deeper. It's like kind of... And then just like somebody just auto makes this like... Tried to make a copy of the Green Goblin, but changed enough of it to try and make it a different character, but it didn't work as well because not everything is as fleshed out as it should be. And of course they only have 13 episodes, and now we then get to another one next season has 12, and then we get to like, damn you, 8. There's just not enough episodes for the stories that are involved. If sometimes you just gotta cut the kind of subplots that aren't important and just focus on the main things. And almost, I would think that certain kind of relationship stuff with Brianna and Roger needed to be just kind of like, oh, it just was so painful. So we'll see how that kind of works out, because I'd rather just focus on like the elderly, I say that loosely, the older relationship between Jamie and Claire, and them kind of reconnecting and dealing with each other's stupidity and foibles and trying to essentially build their own Lollybrock on Fraser's Ridge and build up the tenants and everything. It was funny because Jamie's like, hey, all you tenants, don't you want to work? And then of course that's how it works for him getting introduced to the regulators and how the Crown is acting like a bunch of dill holes. So we'll see how this kind of works out. I was like, okay. Not really that many action scenes in this one. So there's not really much to kind of go on with that. The main impediment for me was Roger and Brianna's relationship. And that's an important kind of one because they're the kind of next relationship that's focused on. And if you're not into that, ooh, poor Nelly, you're going to have some problems. Granted, we still have Jamie and Claire, and you're going to be like, yeah, I'd still stick around for them. And then Murtaugh and all that kind of stuff. Yocasta's kind of annoying because of like her column Mackenzie kind of shit that she does. Though she is an interesting character to learn about. Her, Ulysses, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how this kind of works out in the next kind of seasons. Next kind of whatever kind of happens. Reading through the books, the summaries at least to see what goes on. But if you're into this so far, I would recommend this one. Though granted, just be prepared for the insanity that ensues character-wise. Lore and world building, still kind of the same kind of level that we've got, so there's no kind of big-ass complaints or anything there. So, yeah. So those are my opinions on the season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.